Ladies and gentlemen, imagine, if you will, a scene where a woman stands before you, not speaking a word, yet commanding every ounce of your attention. She does not chase, nor does she beg for it. There's a certain power in her detachment, a subtle, magnetic force that pulls the most elusive hearts toward her. And that, my friends, is something that is far more complex than meets the eye. In this world, men often find themselves running toward what they cannot possess. It's in their nature, isn't it? They seek what slips through their fingers, what they cannot control. But here's the irony: the more a woman withholds, the more she becomes the object of desire. This isn't about playing games or putting on a mask, no. It's a matter of understanding one's worth, of recognizing the strength in remaining true to yourself, independent and free. Men, though they may not admit it, are captivated by this. It is the absence of need, the refusal to depend, that draws them in. You see, detachment does not signal weakness. It is a strength that confounds and entices. A woman who does not fawn for attention, who refuses to shrink herself to fit another's narrative, becomes an enigma. And men, like moths to a flame, are drawn to the enigma. The key here lies in the paradox of presence and absence. It's not the woman who chases affection, who constantly seeks reassurance, who draws admiration. No, it is the one who stands apart, who remains whole without needing validation. She is not for everyone, but for the few who can appreciate her depth, she becomes an irresistible force. Let me ask you, what is more alluring than a woman who knows herself well enough to stand alone in a crowd, to remain unbothered by the whims of the world? What is more magnetic than someone who is not seeking anything from you, but offers everything when the time is right? So, men, you may try to chase after what you think you can control. But in truth, it is the woman who detaches, who holds herself with grace and autonomy, who captures your deepest, most insatiable desires. And in this dance of power and longing, it is she who leads. A woman who is emotionally independent, who does not seek constant validation or approval, often becomes an enigma that draws people to her, particularly men. This is not about being aloof or indifferent. Rather, it's about possessing a deep-seated confidence and self-sufficiency that does not rely on the attention or recognition of others. Emotional detachment, in this sense, refers to the ability to stand strong in one's own identity without bending to societal pressures, the opinions of others, or the need for external affirmation. It's a type of inner strength that captivates others, often in ways they can't quite explain. There is a unique power that comes with not needing anything from others, especially in relationships. Men, like many people, are often drawn to the idea of something they cannot easily possess or control. This drive stems from a mix of natural curiosity and a fundamental desire to conquer or win over what feels elusive. When a woman detaches from the conventional expectations placed upon her, when she does not chase after attention or seek to please others, she becomes a paradox, an irresistible force that piques interest in a way that's subtle yet undeniable. The allure lies not in her appearance alone, but in her refusal to yield, her steadfastness in remaining whole regardless of external influences. In this emotional detachment, there is an intriguing level of mystery. People can sense that this woman is not easily swayed by the shifting dynamics of social interactions. She doesn't scramble for approval or waste her energy trying to fit into the mold of what society expects her to be. In her ability to detach, she maintains a sense of personal sovereignty that men find immensely attractive. It's not about playing hard to get or being distant as a tactic. It's about living authentically and without the need to depend on anyone else for validation. She has a firm understanding of her worth, and she lets that speak for itself. This emotional independence is a rare quality in a world where so many people are conditioned to seek constant affirmation, whether through social media likes, compliments, or emotional dependency. In contrast, this woman operates from a place of inner strength and personal fulfillment. She's not relying on external sources to tell her who she is or how valuable she is. This is why, when a man encounters such a woman, he's often left in awe, struggling to understand the depths of her self-assurance. He may even feel an intense pull towards her, not because she's perfect or unattainable in the traditional sense, but because her emotional autonomy challenges him. She represents something different, something that he may not fully understand but deeply desires to experience. There's something profoundly magnetic about someone who doesn't need the approval of others to feel complete. It suggests that the person has reached a level of emotional maturity where they can stand firm in who they are, free from the validation that most people crave. This is the type of woman who can walk into a room and not feel the need to speak loudly or make herself known. She simply exists, and her presence commands respect because it's not based on desperation or the desire for attention. She doesn't chase affection, nor does she seek to fill an emotional void with external sources. Instead, she fills that void with her own sense of worth, her own identity, and her own unique energy. This detachment in its most genuine form is not about avoiding relationships or shunning connection. It's about ensuring that any relationship or interaction is based on mutual respect and genuine desire rather than dependence or neediness. When a woman detaches emotionally, she's not shutting herself off from love or affection. Rather, she is showing that her love is not something that can be demanded, bargained for, or manipulated. It's a gift she chooses to give, and that choice makes it all the more powerful. The concept of men being drawn to the unattainable is deeply embedded in human nature and psychology. It's a well-established fact that men, more often than not, are attracted to what they cannot have. This primal drive goes beyond mere physical attraction and extends into emotional and psychological dimensions. When a woman remains emotionally detached or unavailable, it taps into something deeply ingrained within men, the desire to conquer, to possess, and to unravel that which is elusive. The key to this attraction lies not in playing games, but in understanding the magnetic power of withholding, and how this creates an allure that captivates and entices. At the heart of this phenomenon is the idea that people, regardless of gender, are often more attracted to what they perceive as difficult to obtain. This is especially true when it comes to relationships. Men, like women, have an innate desire to feel that their pursuit is worthwhile. If something is readily available, there is little effort required, and as a result, the desire for it fades. However, when something or someone seems out of reach, that very distance or unavailability fuels the longing. It creates a sense of challenge, a test that awakens the desire to conquer what feels unattainable. For men, this can take the form of emotional detachment in women, where they cannot predict or control her actions, making her seem like a challenge worth pursuing. A woman who is emotionally detached in the sense that she does not readily engage in every emotional demand or expectation creates an aura of mystery. She is not constantly seeking attention, validation, or reassurance, which makes her an enigma. The more mysterious she is, the more a man finds himself intrigued. He is driven not by a desire to control or possess her in a negative sense, but by an inherent curiosity. What does she want? Why is she emotionally self-sufficient? The answer to these questions, or the chase to find those answers, becomes a pursuit that many men find irresistible. The emotional detachment that causes men to chase a woman isn't necessarily about being cold or indifferent. It's about setting boundaries and understanding that her emotional connection is not something to be demanded or expected, but something to be earned. When a woman makes it clear that her attention is not easily attained, it forces those around her to reconsider their own actions and behaviors. Men in particular will find themselves putting forth more effort to win her over, and this effort deepens their respect and admiration for her. The mere fact that she is not easily swayed or manipulated creates a sense of value around her attention and affection. It is no longer something that can be taken for granted, and thus it becomes highly sought after. This emotional unavailability, though seemingly contradictory, becomes the very thing that heightens a man's desire. It is not about rejecting him, but about offering a challenge. A woman who is emotionally independent and has a sense of self-sufficiency gives a message that she does not need anyone to complete her. This in turn shifts the dynamic. Instead of her emotions being something that he can easily sway, they become something precious and selective. The more a man has to work for a woman's affection, the more he will value and cherish it when he earns it. There is something fundamentally attractive in this pursuit, something that taps into a man's innate desire to conquer and achieve. In addition to the element of mystery, there is also an aspect of respect that is embedded in this detachment. When a woman remains emotionally unavailable, she demonstrates a profound level of self-respect. She values her emotions enough not to give them away freely or to just anyone. Men, often unknowingly, are drawn to this respect. It elevates the woman in their eyes, creating a sense of reverence for her character. Rather than feeling entitled to her affections or expecting them at will, they begin to approach her with the kind of respect reserved for those who carry themselves with dignity and grace. The more she holds her ground, the more valuable she becomes in their eyes, and in turn, the more they are motivated to pursue her. Moreover, this emotional detachment challenges a man's own self-perception. Men are often conditioned to view relationships as something to be won, something to be achieved. When a woman does not make it easy for them to win her over, it forces them to reassess their approach. They begin to recognize that their pursuit must be based on something deeper than mere attraction or the ability to impress. It must be rooted in emotional intelligence, maturity, and an understanding of what it means to truly connect with another person. In this way, emotional detachment not only makes a woman more attractive, but also elevates the standard of the relationship itself. The connection that eventually forms is not based on superficial attraction or the convenience of emotional availability, but rather on the mutual understanding that both individuals respect one another and recognize each other's worth. The emotional detachment that draws men in does not exist in a vacuum. It is the result of a woman's ability to remain grounded in her own identity, to not seek constant affirmation or validation from others. It speaks to her confidence, her sense of self, and her ability to stand firm in her own worth. Men, in turn, are drawn to this confidence not because they want to break down walls or possess her, but because they recognize that her emotional strength is something they deeply admire. It forces them to challenge their own assumptions and expectations of what a relationship should look like, and in doing so, creates a deeper connection rooted in mutual respect and admiration. In the end, the emotional detachment that makes a woman seem unattainable isn't a tactic, it's a reflection of her self-awareness and self-worth. It makes her seem like something rare, something valuable, and this rarity is what attracts men in the first place. It is the ultimate test of attraction, not of how much she gives away, but of how much she holds back, how much she values herself, and how much she requires others to do the same. This, in turn, creates a level of respect, desire, and admiration that is hard to replicate in any other dynamic. A woman who understands her own value and maintains her independence, particularly emotional independence, becomes a compelling figure. The strength she demonstrates through her autonomy is magnetic, drawing people, especially men, toward her. This is not to say that she does not appreciate or seek meaningful relationships, but rather that her sense of self-worth is not reliant on anyone else's approval or validation. She does not need others to define her, nor does she